And just moments ago, Poland announced it's ready to hand over fighter jets to a U.S. air base in Germany to help Ukraine fight off Russian forces.
Local 10's Gio Insignaras is in our newsroom with the very latest developments from there.
It's dangerous for so many people right now. A temporary ceasefire allowing civilians in Ukraine to safely escape appears to be holding, though the humanitarian crisis is growing. Meanwhile, world leaders are concerned about escalating tensions and the risks if the conflict gets any bigger.
Amid Russian claims of a temporary ceasefire in 5 major cities, thousands of people are fleeing areas that have been shelled for days. The Red Cross attempting to evacuate civilians from the city. And just outside the capital, a Russian bombardment and heavy fighting has devastated the town for days, driving people from what's left of their homes. The road impassable. The only way out now is on foot. Today, in an address given on his Facebook channel, Ukrainian President Zelensky called on world leaders to protect Ukrainian skies by providing life-saving military planes and anti-rocket systems, adding there's no more time to wait.
The fault is with the occupants, but the responsibility is with those who for the last 13 days, somewhere out there on the West, somewhere in their offices, can't approve an obviously necessary decision. Those who still haven't secured Ukrainian skies from the Russian killers, who haven't protected our cities from air bombings and rockets when they actually can.
Also today, NATO allies saying the crisis in Ukraine is horrific and that an escalated conflict could see even more chaos and spiral out of control.
We have a responsibility to ensure the conflict does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine. That would be even more dangerous, destructive, and even more deadly.
On the ground, as weapons shipments enter Ukraine, a senior U.S. official tells ABC News there are concerns now that Russians could target these supplies, even in Poland, before they get into Ukraine. The U.S., meanwhile, warning that while action is needed to help Ukraine and combat Russia, there's a risk in taking things too far.
You don't want to escalate this conflict any bigger and any worse than it already is. You're talking about Russia, a nuclear-armed power. The consequences for escalating this conflict could be devastating, not just for the people of Ukraine, but for the European continent.
Ultimately, tensions remain high, but U.S. officials insist there's still a way to end the violence and transition into a more peaceful outcome.
The diplomatic door remains open, and Mr. Putin has so many options available to him militarily. The one that he also still has is diplomacy. He can sit down and negotiate a peaceful end to this.
According to the UN, 474 Ukrainian civilians have been killed since the invasion began, including 29 children, but the group believes the true number is likely much higher. In the newsroom, I'm Gio Insignaras, Local 10 News.
And some Russian banks are now switching to using China's card payment system in an attempt to get around the business blockades. This comes after MasterCard, Visa, and American Express all suspended operations in the country. China's UnionPay, it's used in 180 countries and would allow Russians to make payments in those countries. And you can count on Local 10 for complete coverage on the war in Ukraine. We are the only South Florida station with a full-time bureau in our nation's capital. Look for live reports from our D.C. Bureau Chief Ben Kennedy. He'll be coming your way at 4 o'clock.